Right. Hey, welcome to the Data Watch Friday today. Yeah, today I'm again replacing Michael. And so I look into our question bank, and there was one question. Um, what the question was, when we have some changes in the source system, to whether or not, or what to do in the data vault, right? So do we extend the satellite, for example, or do we create a completely new one, right? And surprise, the answer is it depends. And so it really depends on how that's maybe there's no hard rule, right? So data vault doesn't say, hey, when this kind of change happens, then you have to add a new satellite or you have to extend the satellite, right? So therefore, this is my, let's say, personal experience here, what I did in the past and what worked very well. So first of all, this is maybe the outgoing situation, right? So we have a classical business object here. Yeah, a really classical one here, the customer, right? So I have a customer hub and I have one source system in that case. In this case here, this is part of the naming convention here. It's SF, stands for Salesforce, because we are using Salesforce internally. And yeah, so this is, by the way, split criteria number one. You split all the data for the same business object by source systems, right? So whenever you have, let's say, another source system or another CRM system, or when you buy another company, right? And it's a fusion, and you yeah, integrate now from two completely different systems, your customers, right? So you have one central entity, right? So you have the customer hub and multiple satellites per source system surrounding it. All right, so in Salesforce, now we have, let's say, all the data. Of course, there are some more split criteria we could apply here, like rate of change, like for security reasons, right? When we have some security security policies in the source system, to adapt them in the data vault as well, to make the information marts much easier, that the same security policies are applied also in the information mart. So, but this is to not make it too complex here. I just kept all the data from the source system in one satellite here. And now a change happens, right? So let's say just a really small change happens, and we have one column more, or maybe I know, I think in Salesforce it's uncommon to really delete columns. It's more common to don't show them anymore and create a new column, for example. But anyway, so we have now a change, and we have, let's say, new columns, or one or two maybe new columns. So the question now is, do we extend the satellite, or do we create a completely new satellite just containing these new columns? So let's go with the example of yeah, adding a new satellite. And here you can see, okay, I create maybe yeah, very creative here, Salesforce 2, right? The Salesforce 2 satellite. So it means more data, right, for the satellite 2. And but what happens if this changes happen in a very frequent way, or in a very regular way, that I end up in this one maybe? And this is what I personally try to avoid, right? So to have 20, 30, 40, 50 satellites on this, because of all the changes in the source system, by really the really small changes in the source system. And it's also hard then to differentiate what's in what source, what data I can find in which satellite here, right? Because there's no big categorization of, hey, I have a new column. Yeah, maybe I can put the column name in the satellite as well, maybe, but also looks messy over time, right? So therefore, for such a small changes, I prefer to extend an already existing satellite. So usually we have some, let's say, core satellites from the source system. Of course, it really depends on how you split the data now, but usually you have this, let's say, core satellite from Salesforce, where I can find, let's say, 70, 80% of all the columns, right? So maybe I split by privacy reasons, for handling delete requests much quicker, to store really yeah, let's say the PII data, right? So names and everything I can point to the personal to the person directly into another satellite. But yeah, but basically usually we have this main satellite from a source system, where we can find almost all the data in that one. So now I will show you a short trick then afterwards, how to avoid to insert new rows when new columns appear, right? So especially when we use the hash diff, there's a small challenge. We have to fulfill here to not have this behavior to whenever we add a new column to completely reinsert the full satellite again or reloading it from scratch, right? But let's talk about first about the other part, because in especially in Salesforce, for example, there's a possibility to install completely new packages, right? So you have, for example, the customer entity, which is called the accounts in Salesforce, right? So you have an accounts object there. And then you can install packages in Salesforce, which brings you, let's say, 20 new fields or 20 new columns at one time, right? So, and you can say, hey, this is the feature or this is the package I installed. And now we have 20 more fields in the source system, and we want to bring them in the data vault as well. This is a very good opportunity to create a new satellite, because now we have a categorization of these new columns, right? And we can insert, you can see that here, the package name in the satellite name that you also know, okay, I will find that kind of data in that satellite, right? So this is usually how I like to extend the data vault model by adding new satellites when it makes sense, right? So when we get a bunch of new columns at one point, due to an installation of a package, for example, or anything else. All right, so I mean, this is then straightforward, right? So we don't touch an existing satellite, we don't have any problems, and this is straightforward. But let's come back to the let's come back to the scenario where we had this small change and we want to extend the satellite. So what will happen? So here on day one, for example, we have really a simple example here of a satellite. I also don't use hash keys here for better explanation. So here we have a business key, let's say A. We have the load date timestamp, 29 of June. This was yesterday. And we have a descriptive column here. I call it just column 1 with the value of 100. And our hash diff, in case we're using the hash diffs, we will hash the value of the 100. So far, so good. And on the next day, we now have a new column, and we add this add this new column also to the satellite, right? So this should, of course, happen before we load the satellite the next time, right? So we insert a new column here, and because we don't have any historical data so far, so this column or the value for this new column, especially here for this business key A, is null, right? So, but we already calculated the hash diff just based on this 100, right? And I mean, that's totally fine. But what will happen now when we get the same data the next day, right? So we will get the same data the next day, right? Column 1 is 100, column 2 is still null, right? But now the hash diff also contains the column number 2, right? So because one rules in when we hash or when we apply the hashing is we convert everything into a string. So that's what we do first. Then we replace null values by empty strings, because as soon as you put a null value into a hash function, the result will always be null, right? So this is what we want to avoid, and therefore we replace null values into empty strings, and then we concatenate all the descriptive fields and using a non-space delimiter in between, right? So this has some reasons. Maybe when you visited our bootcamp, we explained that a much more there. So what can happen, right, when you don't use a non-space delimiter? And here in this case, this non-space delimiter are these two pipes here. You can see it at the bottom right. I hope you can see my mouse here. So this is the delimiter or the concatenation delimiter between column 1 and column 2, right? And now you remember, null is converted into or is replace null by an empty string, right? So it's nothing, right? But we have two columns, and we have now this pipe here in between, and this pipe is also being hashed then, and that means that we get a different hash diff result. And based on our delta detection, our incremental loading, we will detect this now as a change, right? So because the hash here is now different, and we will insert this new row. And when we have a look into the data, same business key, column 1, column 2, the same values, right? So there, it's not necessary to insert that one, right? So that's not what we want. So what we do, right? What we do usually is in the hash diff algorithm, we add simply a really simple trick. We add a right trim to the hash diff. So, and when we add the right trim, so then it looks like this. Of course, the complete hash functionality is a little bit longer with the casting to the string and coalesce for using replacing null by empty strings and so on. Here I'm really just focusing on the necessary components here, right? So here you can see now on day one, we have this R trim, and we still have just this 100. And now you can see what the R trim will remove the white spaces anyway, but additionally, you can tell them, hey, please remove some special characters as well. And R trim means from the right? And so here we say, hey, in case you will find these two pipes here, please trim them as well. So that means on the next day, on the next, or now we add this new column again, column number 2 with null, and now the hash diff. Sorry, this is maybe a small mistake. So the two pipes are not here because we're looking on the data from yesterday. But when we look on the data from today, we will trim these two pipes, right? And we will trim these two pipes from the right side, that the result is still hashing the 100 for the old data, right, which we get on the 29th of June, and for the new data we get from on the 30th of June, right? So that the final result, come on, damn it. Sorry, wait, I make it open here. Missed the motivations here a little bit, so that we end up in this result here, you can see, right? So we have the business key, we have column 1, column 2. The content didn't change, and we don't want to insert this new row. And this happens by using this rtrim, so that here we will not. So what finally will be hashed is just the 100, right? So we remove these two pipes, right? Because this is part of the rtrim, and then only the 100 is hashed, and we are happy again. So this is a small trick here to avoid reinserting all the history in case you add a new column. And yeah, so that's it, right? Summary. Small changes, really small changes, just 1, 2 new columns. I tend to extend an already existing satellite, using the rtrim to not force reinserting all the rows again, right? And in case you have some bigger changes, installing new packages, new plugins, new add-ons, whatever, right, where you have a lot of new fields at one point, that's a good reason for inserting or creating new satellite for this. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's it so far from me. Of course, a little bit advertisement. So for the next Date What Friday, feel free to submit your to submit your questions if you have one. Just go on https sfr.ee/dvfriday, and also don't miss our webinars, right? And we will have our Data Dreamland again in October this year. We had this last year already, the first time in person or live on site in Hanover, and it was awesome. And yeah, we will definitely do this again this year, 10th and 11th of October here in Hanover. And the core topic is cost-efficient data solutions, right? Because right now we're doing a lot of migration projects at the moment, going from on-premise solutions to the cloud. And one big point is costs, right? As soon as you go into the cloud, of course, all cloud providers say, hey, it's right, you can scale everything out, right? You need more power, just increase your warehouse sizes and so on, the computing power. But you have to be careful because you pay more for that, right? And this data agreement here is focusing, or the headline is cost-efficient data solutions. And yeah, and of course, this is also quite new. If you want to be updated on, or this is the first Data Vault community for free, right? So this is completely a free Data Vault community called Data Vault Innovators. That's an application. Just go into your app store and log in, download and sign up. And yeah, so this is in cooperation with partner from us from Australia here. We built up this community, and yeah, so cool conversations already here. It's in the beginning steps, but this is for free. This is everyone can sign up. There are no restrictions, and this is yeah, to bring all the data vault knowledge together. So we're also very active there, posting a lot of stuff, and yeah, sign up for free, and hope to see you there. Okay, then thank you for attending, and see you hopefully next week again. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks for joining today. If you'd like to discuss this further, give us a call on the number below here, and we're happy to discuss this with you. See you next time. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.